Welcome to this episode of the Context Podcast by Proofgeist. I'm your host, Martha Zink, and this is where we get to talk about whatever is going on in the Claris and FileMaker world. In this episode, we're lucky to have Ryan McCann join us from Claris. There have been a few changes going on, and Ryan helps shed some light on what's new, what's coming, and the role the community plays in the success of Claris.
Ryan, it's really good to see you. And before we dive into things, let me just quickly kind of introduce you to our listeners here. It sounds like you've been at Apple for quite a long time, since 2013. And prior to that, you were the director of sales at Romby, according to my notes, which is now owned by SAP. And then previous to that, you were with Oracle doing strategic sales on some, on a really cool channel. And it's really good to see you here. And I know there's been a lot of change, and we just wanted to kind of ask you what's going on and what can you share with us?
Definitely there has been a lot of change, and it's happened pretty quickly. And so I guess just, at a high level, Brad is no longer with Apple. I've moved into the CEO role on an interim basis. I'm in the role now, and I'm operating and I'm in the seat until I'm not. And I've got the full confidence of, the organization within Claris and within our parent company, Apple, as well, behind me. So I feel good about the transition, even though it happened really fast. As you guys can imagine, I can't get into a lot of details about Brad not being here, other than to say that, he and I've worked together for a lot of years, and I absolutely wish him well on his journey. What Brad wants to communicate about his journey is obviously up to Brad. But as far as Claris is concerned, we've moved pretty quickly to align the organization and make sure that we answered some questions about, the business that people obviously had when a transition happens like this very quickly. And what I found over and over again is that people just want to know that the business is healthy and that our strategies are sound, and whether or not there's going to be any big change in direction. So that's it. I feel, you mentioned my background. I've been with Claris for 11 years, and I started out running the biggest geo for Claris, which is the Americas region, and then 5 years ago moved into a global role. My time at Claris has been spent very cross-functionally, especially in my role in kind of driving transformation and continuous improvement across all of the functions at Claris. That's been kind of my secondary responsibility. And so, moving into this responsibility is while it's a huge responsibility, it's an awesome opportunity. It does not feel uncomfortable for me at all. The moment doesn't feel too big, and it really helps to be a part of a team that is very strong. And I'm not just talking about Claris. I'm talking about Apple. Like, we have got some of the best and brightest in the world, and that is a huge advantage. Whatever I need, it's right there. So I feel really well supported in areas that I need to close a gap on pretty quickly. But yeah, that's it. I've been here for like 10 days now, 11 days, business days, and we're fine.
That's awesome. Well, it seems like you worked very closely with Brad, so I'm guessing that in some cases there's a lot of continuity there, right? It's not like you were very far from him when you were working previously with him. So I'm guessing that
Yeah.
So this should feel pretty normal, right? In the sense that you know what you know where the company is, you know where things are. This isn't like you're being dropped into something totally new and fresh. I mean, you really have been around for 11 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, and it's I'll talk a little bit about the performance of the organization, but it would be silly for me to walk in and say, well, great, now I get to make decisions and I want to do things totally differently. I set the plan. I was a huge part of setting our strategy, setting our financial plans, communicating, those plans to the organization, aligning the organization around those plans. They're as much my plans as his plans. And I'm not saying that because I want to take credit. I'm saying I believe in our plan. I believe in what we're doing, or else I wouldn't have said it, And so and how we've arrived at our strategies and where we are today, this is not something that has happened overnight. Brad took over as CEO 5 years ago, something like that. And the first thing that we had to do was to convince the organization or express to the organization that we are going to shift our posture. We are going to move from a run the business posture that's really kind of focused on managing risk to a business that is obsessed with growth. And that sounds really cool. And I'll tell you, it sounded really cool when he said it day one. But everybody wants to do really cool things until it's time to get into the business of what it takes to do really cool things. And it turns out that that type of cultural shift was, was not light. It was not trivial. And getting the organization to understand what it means to shift in a direction of growth and that mindset and the things that we're going to need to do differently, that was a big lift. And then moving from that into, our shift from waterfall to agile, like, the way that we operate as a business, you guys, I'm sure, can appreciate how overwhelming something like that can be. You're taking 30 years of doing something a certain way, and you're going to move to a totally different way of operating. So that was not, it was not seamless and it was not trivial. In the last year and a half, we've gotten through a lot of those growing pains. And fiscal year 2024, which ends in September, right? So we just started fiscal year 2025 in October. That fiscal year was the most success that we've had since we've embarked on this transformation journey. And it feels good coming into fiscal year 25, having that wind in our backs and giving us the confidence. I mean, staying the course and staying steady. And we've had some starts and stops. We've had some starts and stops with the product. We've had some starts and stops with the organization, the teams, which have been, some of them have been very visible. But getting to a place now where it's when you look at today versus a year ago, and then you look at today versus 2 years ago, the way that we're functioning, the progress that we're making today, the speed at which we're making that progress, it feels really good. And that momentum coming into this year gives me a lot of confidence. And I know it gives the organization a lot of confidence.
What's been the biggest change that's precipitated that transformation from your perspective? And people.
Yeah. People. Getting the right people, that just understanding where the critical gaps were and bringing the right people in to close those gaps. It's amazing the lift that an organization can feel by just, a small subset of the right folks. And I think we've been pretty clear, and we had some trial and error there. Okay. I'm really happy with how the product organization at Claris is starting to grow up and come together. I don't say grow up in a negative way. I mean,
sure,
the way that the product organization, it is growing. We are developing some really good talent there. We're bringing in some really good talent. And to me, I hate to diminish, my domain of, my background, but it's like selling in a volume velocity business model. Really, it's the product, right? And so the most important thing for me is that we have a really, really good, clear understanding of the market requirements and our ability to meet those requirements and our differentiation, and that we're doing a really good job of translating those requirements into an engineering backlog that we can execute against.
Yeah, so I wanna pick your brain on that a little bit more. It sounds like Claris is doing pretty well, at least in the last fiscal year. There's been a lot of positive growth. Can you share maybe a little bit with us, like where is that growth coming from, and how you're defining your markets, and what are we talking about here? Is it FileMaker? Is it Connect? What's propelling this success?
So we think about our business in terms of, I'll start by saying, and I've shared this publicly and I will continue to share it, that we had a double-digit growth year in fiscal year 24, and it was the most growth that I've experienced as a percentage since I've been at this company. So that's a fact, okay? And we're not seeing that improvement happen in just one part of our business. So we split our business into our focus on existing markets. Think of that as our install base, and think of FileMaker, right? That's more than half of our business, to be honest with you. It's actually the majority of our employees are focused on that specific area. And then the rest of our organization is dedicated toward growth in new markets. Okay. I'm operating under the assumption that anybody listening to this that, isn't like totally crystal clear on what I mean by growth in new markets. So I'll drill into that a little bit, but let me start with existing markets. We look at our install base and our opportunities to improve retention and drive expansion as the way that we should align the business. So our teams are built around what are the things that we can do to increase our retention rate. In other words, same raw material, greater return. And with that raw material of install base, how can we get them that install base to start taking on more and more projects? Okay. On the retention side of the business, we split ourselves up into 4 major areas of focus globally. We set growth plans for fiscal year 24 based on those 4 geographic areas. APAC, Japan is its own market. It's a big market for us, Europe and the Americas. 3 out of 4 of those markets exceeded their retention rate goals for the year. Okay, that was a huge deal. On the expansion side, that's adding licenses to existing contracts, right? That we track the volume, we track the revenue. 3 out of 4 of our markets exceeded their growth plans for fiscal year 24 as well. The areas that we've been focused is just the blocking and tackling of retaining customers and expanding in accounts. I think where we've experienced the most pressure in the last 4 years has been the overwhelming volume of competitors that have moved into the low code, pro code, no code space. 5 years ago, it was a small group of us that were here playing this game, and since the category has taken off and caught fire, it is unbelievable the volume of people that we're seeing in the market today. And there's no one formidable opponent besides Microsoft is we take them very seriously. That's really showing up. It's across a lot of different vendors. So cutting through that noise, keeping our customers loyal to us is the first objective. Like, we don't want people leaving, and then getting them what they need to take on more use cases has been our focus for the past couple of years. And that speaks to the products that the investments we're making in the FileMaker platform above everything else. It's the heart and soul of our business. It is our revenue stream. It is FileMaker. So continuing to invest, bringing faster improvements to that product, that's been a huge part of it, because we believe the better the product, the more that people will use it for. Also working to start to try and get some new features to market, and that's where we've been slow. And we have bigger plans for this year in that area. And finally, just telling better stories to the market, like doing a better job of describe. Oftentimes, our developers in the community do a better job of describing the value of our platform than we do. And so we're learned from that, and we've found ways to be better at describing to our target personas and our target markets the value of our platform. And it's increasing confidence, and it's improving our brand position. So to me, of all of the things in our base, improving our retention rates is the most important critical thing, because it tells me what the future is going to look like for us as the most critical step forward. Expansion follows that, and that tells me how well we're preparing people or enabling them to go out and take on additional problems. So I've said a lot just now about our base. I want to pause. Do you have any questions that you want to ask about that before I move on?
Well, one thing I'm smiling over here because Ernest and I had essentially the same conversation about our own business a couple days ago. So it's kind of interesting how just how similar they are. Different scales, obviously, but still, and I think the focus on blocking and tackling is pretty important. Like, you have to be able to function as a business. You have to be able to keep the customers you have and grow within the customer base you have in order to do the next things that you want to do. Right. And I guess that's just basic business 101, because we think about and act and plan and strategize around those same basic ideas. We have a lot of customers. Let's keep them. Let's make them really happy. Let's expand what we're doing with those customers. And that is something that we have to do as well. So yeah, happy to hear that is going well, because that is, I mean, it is the lifeblood of the company. It is the future, as you say.
Yeah, and it's not, maybe necessarily as sexy as I'd like it to be, but the facts are the facts. That if you think about our volume of customers, we published that we have 60,000 customers ish that are in active subscription contracts with us, or active maintenance contracts. So we call that's what we say is our active customers. But what the community probably doesn't understand is that there is a base of customers behind that, maybe 2x that volume, that are absolutely using our products to solve mission critical use cases. They're mission critical solutions in the organization. They're just not paying for maintenance. So we don't count those in that 60,000 number. So when you think about the opportunity for retention, is focusing on the 60,000 that we have. We want as many of those staying with us as possible. So it's what are the things that we're doing to encourage our customers to stay with us? That's a body of work. Then how do we bring more of our expired customers back into our program? That's it's the same people. They're already using our products. They love us. That's where we're exposed, is where we have people that are on perpetual contracts, that are not in maintenance, that are on older and older versions. As we go forward, we become much more exposed when that customer has one point of failure in the organization and that person leaves. Now what you have is this mission critical application that nobody really knows how to maintain. And the second it goes sideways, now we're at risk. So a lot of the things that we've invested in over the last 18, and you guys have been involved in some of these things, 18 to 24 months, is programs to find those accounts that are at risk, that don't have a pro developer attached, and do everything we can to change that. Whether it's providing enablement materials, training materials, academy paths, or, to me, most importantly, getting a partner in the conversation, even if it's just for an hour. Like, can you talk to somebody? Let them do a review of what you're using and how you're using it. Let them, we're not trying to be the experts there. Let the experts diagnose your situation. And that we find, our partners are very credible. When they talk to customers, and you're talking to a version 16 customer, within an hour, the customer is going to be somewhat compelled to at least have a deeper conversation. So we're finding a lot of success through that motion. And you know what? I can point this. I'm not going to get into the details of the numbers, but I can tell you right now, it is convincing enough that we're pouring more and more gasoline on that effort, in terms of the customers that are retaining when we are successful in making those connections. And then guess what they end up doing? Expanding. So that's blocking and tackling of running our business. It's not sexy, it's not fancy, but this is the stuff that we're invested in heavily, and it's paying out while we're building things for the future.
It may not be, glamorous or whatever, but I think the idea that there's 2x more people out there that aren't necessarily engaged, something we kind of, we don't really have any way of judging those numbers, but anecdotally, we know that we get people showing up into one of our channels, whether they've downloaded one of our products or read one of our blogs, on a pretty regular basis, that have extensive FileMaker systems that really don't even know there's a whole ecosystem around it. And you can get sort of frustrated at that, like, oh my gosh, like, how can they not know about us? How can they not know about Engage? How can they not know about user groups? How can they not know about Marketplace and all these things? That's one way to look at it. But the other way to look at it is that's an opportunity. How many of those folks are out there, and how do we find them?
Huge.
That's something that we think about a lot as well, is how do we find the people who are using the product, but just don't even know the richness of the ecosystem and the community and the marketplace and all that stuff. So I'm really glad to hear that is working for you. That gives us more fuel to continue to push into those areas as well.
It's actually kind of amazing, the volume of contracts that get signed on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, that are people that were lost but then found. They're a version 15 customer that showed. I'm telling you, every single day, I have these channels and I can see the types of orders that are coming through every single day. These people are showing up. And you can imagine that challenge for us. Part of the challenge, I mean, we could spend 15 hours. There's some really interesting things that we're doing. One of the challenges that we have is when you have a perpetual customer that's on premise. So you have no usage analytics, you have no visibility, right? And they're not in an active contract. How do you find them?
Yeah.
You got the person that was there from 4 years ago, and our customers tend to buy and I'll rebuy in 4 years. That's fine. That's what we do. In certain markets, that happens more often than not. And so how do you even market to those people? So a lot of what we've been doing over the last year and a half is finding new channels to re-engage with our install base. And the last thing you want to do is just email blast over and over and over again, because what ends up happening is you begin perpetuating the issue. People are turning you off. So what are the channels that we can find these people in and re-engage them in conversations, bring them back in, opt them back in? It's one of the things I'm most proud of that our marketing organization has done. Well, one of many things that I think they've done well in the last year and a half is reestablish our base of customers that can hear from us now.
You know what I'm getting this feeling of, those videos on social media when somebody comes home from being overseas, armed services, and they see their dog and it's very emotional. It's like they've come home and like this homecoming thing. That's kind of what it feels like to me. These people coming.
It feels like to me too.
It's like,
That's an
oh,
ad.
God, it's awesome. I mean, seriously, let's make an ad for that. Let's find those folks and talk to them about welcoming them home back to where they belong.
This is going to be a thing. Watch.
I think it's a great thing. I think it's awesome.
Man, listen.
Do it.
I've already got the song for it. It's going in my head right now.
Welcome home.
We can show up at their door and knock on the door and be like,
But it's true. Welcome home. Welcome back. Stay a while.
Welcome back. We're so glad we found you again.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's such an important theme though, because I think there are a couple of forces operating today that it's worth paying attention to. And I think my sense is that Claris is, from my perspective, faced with sort of two challenges, right? You've got this growth mindset that you've been pursuing, which all the stories and the narrative, which I completely subscribe to and a fan of in terms of retention, can't get you to that double-digit growth kind of posture, right? So, I mean, so this is maybe I wouldn't call it a disconnect, but this is, perhaps you can shed a little bit more light, right? Because this is like the new market stuff that you're talking about and that strategy around it, right?
I mean, Brad really talked a lot about use the innovator's dilemma. What we found is that not everybody gets that story or understands the background. So there's just too much explanation that goes into it. But the net of it is, how do you maintain everything that was beautiful about that got you here today, FileMaker? How do you continue to engineer in that and develop in it? But it's, and also take advantage of the next growth curve, right? You have an entire organization that's got to continue to pour engineering investments, marketing investments into your core platform. But there are other ways for us to get to scaled growth that, we need to engineer toward, that we have to think about and make the right kind of trade-offs. And how do we get to that scaled growth while we're continuing to maintain and provide the love that we need to our core platform? I mean, the fact is that FileMaker is hard for new developers to get into. We used to market that it's easy. Anybody can do this. 4 or 5 years ago, that was kind of like, everybody come in and do it and you can build stuff. But it's like, that's not true, right? I mean, for somebody that's not a skilled developer, it's, we're talking 100 hours. I don't know. 100 hours to be able to develop the skills to build something that you can actually use as a business. Maybe people are a lot better than that. But I think for, a citizen developer, it's not like you just pick it up. It's not drag and drop, right? And so we're flooded with a competitive marketplace of companies that are drag and drop, and you can get to some wins real quick, right? That represents a whole other opportunity for us. I consider that free marketing for the category. We'll talk about that on another show, another day. But our challenge is, how do we make what engineering investments can we make to help fuel this skilled growth? How can we solve for some of that challenge, that just the difficult, or more intensive onboarding experience? Nobody can do what we can do from a product standpoint, but it takes time to learn how to build and to develop into it. So we think about our growth strategies really in two different ways. One of them is we want to introduce new product features into the market. And we did that out the gates as almost like standalone products. And we realized this is not the right way, right? In learning how to be an agile company, we put a bunch of stuff out there and to our existing community, and our existing community is used to a certain set of capabilities and a certain experience with FileMaker, and this was different. And so we have reset and made the decisions that our engineering investments for new features are going to be in the service of augmenting FileMaker, encouraging more and more use cases to be addressed, and potentially more and more developers to at least get some initial wins, which ultimately get them to the ability where they can make the case to bring in help, to bring in a professional to start building the bigger, badder things. So that's part of our strategy. You guys have heard of Studio, and that's where I have expectations this year that we're going to start to get a different type of traction there. But it can't be as a standalone product. It has to be in support of and in service of our platform, with FileMaker being the heart and soul. The other side of our business is focused on really the building the machinery for scale. And what I mean by that is that we happen to have a market advantage in being a part of, one of the biggest, best companies in the world. Historically, we as an entity have operated really autonomously. And so, we kind of did our thing, Claris, FileMaker, and Apple does their thing. They sell hardware and devices, and we sell software, a solution to a business problem. And we've made some attempts along the way to find intersections. One of the approaches that we took was to invest in the retail stores. And while that was interesting and promising, in some ways, it was just too hard to enable retail stores to be able to sell a very complicated, like it's a blank canvas. What's the problem you're trying to solve is really the conversation, right? And so that's hard to do at a retail level. So about 3 years ago, we looked at the market, we looked at how saturated things have gotten, and we said, what is our best shot to cut through all of this noise and to really establish our position as a category leader and ultimately emerge as the category leader? I think there will be 3 or 4 major players when it's all said and done, but we should absolutely be one of them. And so we made the business decision that our best path forward was in harnessing all of the strength of our parent company, Apple. And so we aligned with Apple up front. We had to determine, this has got to be a product approach, right? It cannot just be, hey, tell people about us when you're in accounts talking to the CIO and positioning hardware. So we hunted and found a use case that was really important to help develop this machinery and prove the concept. And the use case that we aligned on is in education and a market that's very important to both of us. And there was a critical aspect to the education solution that Apple was having a tough time solving. There wasn't a good solution for, and it was essentially getting data out of back-end student information systems, transforming and loading that information to power front-end beautiful experiences for the teachers and students in the classroom that Apple provides, a combination of software and services. So we joined together. Our engineering team started to work with their engineering teams. We developed, kind of that muscle of how we work together. We started kind of working on this kind of in an exploratory way, experimenting, building confidence, growing. We did that over about 18 months. And once we got to a place where we felt really confident that at an Apple level of quality, we are going to be able to deliver an integration experience that they will promote we started to then learn how to build the go-to-market muscle around that. I mean, if you think about it, one of the aspects of this is how do we enable an Apple channel at scale, right? We're talking about an exponentially bigger channel than the Claris sales channel. So that's just one aspect. What are the tools, the resources, the training that these folks are going to need? You got to build that, right? How are we going to start working with folks within Apple marketing to start telling those stories? How is that going to show up in web properties? What can we say? What shouldn't we say? Building that machinery. So got that to market. That accounted for the other side of our success in FY24, which was in the back half of the year. Apple publicly announced the deprecation of their plugin for PowerSchool, which is a huge student information system in education, and announced us as their standard for integrations. That, was awesome. Huge win for us. But it is, to me, it's just the beginning. Where we're focused right now is our use cases outside of integration between student information system and the front end Apple experiences. So it's that was kind of the land strategy with Apple at scale. And now we're working toward the expand strategy, which is moving those customers into low hanging fruit use cases into the platform, FileMaker and other features. That's our focus for fiscal year 25 and getting those products into market. As we solve for those problems, we now look at the opportunity that exists outside of education. But crawl was, let's win on this first use case. Walk is, okay, let's get out of that into the platform. Run is, let's expand behind education. And that's how we decided as a strategy that we're going to tackle scaled growth.
I think, earlier Todd mentioned some parallels between businesses here. And I think this is one of those as well. Like when we get into a new customer, we get to interact with a new customer, we're looking for the low hanging fruit. We're looking for the problems we can solve now. We're looking to get in the door and figure out ways that we can help. And it comes from a place of like honest and love and care, right? We really do want to make a difference, but it's that first building block of trust that we're creating so that we can do bigger, better things, right? So that's that you want to retain, you want to get some confidence, and then you want to show what else you can do. So it sounds like that's what your model is for this relationship with Apple, with a very large umbrella of possibilities that you've got potentially there.
It is. I mean, and what you're describing is one of the steps on that journey. And what you will see that always is consistent about us is, what's our kind of our brand promise or our purpose in existence. And it's, we say is to make powerful technologies available to everyone. Or I think about it as we have always been about enabling small, mid-sized organizations, whether it's business or education, to use technology to be able to thrive and gain advantage. Like it's not just for the enterprise. We want to make that power available to everybody. And our role is as the custom platform of choice, right? We want to be the custom platform of choice for companies that are committed to technology as a transforming differentiator. And we see firsthand over and over and over again, these examples play out within our install base, the gains that our customers are experiencing when they have gotten to that mindset, that innovate, like we operate with an innovation mindset. We're not taking on projects. We're constantly working off of a backlog of innovation, and we deliver Claris as the nerve center, or we're using language workplace operating system. We deliver over and over again as the workplace operating system for these customers. And what we find is that those journey steps are very consistent universally, whether it's in education or small, mid-sized business. There's essentially 4 stages to that journey. And we want to meet our customers where they are along the way. And oftentimes what we find is early in that journey, they need to get that first win. And so making people successful right out the gates, we don't deliver services. We don't have a consulting services arm of our business. So our partners are critical and integral to that strategy. Getting that win, we know once we get that win, the magic starts to happen. And it's when you have those ingredients of our platform, a pro developer, and a lot of times that comes in the form of a Claris partner, an internal motivated business champion, and executive support. Those are the 4 critical ingredients to workplace OS and transformation. And so we've organized our product vision around delivering against that. We've organized our teams internally around those journey stages. And as we continue to evolve in that direction, our confidence just grows that we're going to continue to execute our growth mission. We want to continue to sustain double-digit growth. And we know, because we know if we do that, that we are on our way to ending up being a category leader here when this thing is settled in a few years.
Well, one thing I'm not sure it was clear. I may have missed it, but when you're talking about this partnership with Apple, this is Claris Connect as the solution that was delivered
Stage
to
one,
Apple. Is that right?
correct.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that was clear. I just want to make sure our listeners get that info.
Claris Connect is the integration tool of choice for Apple Apple customers in education. That's Apple is promoting Claris Connect as the integration tool between the back-end student information systems and the front-end experiences for Apple. And
it's sort of hard to overestimate how important that is. I mean, we've as people in the community, we've watched and wanted for years for Apple to say something somewhere about Claris products, FileMaker or whatever it was. And they just really never did. I think there was a short period of time. If you bought a Mac, you might be able to get FileMaker installed on the machine, or would come bundled with it. But that was about it. That was about the level of acceptance we got.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty big deal.
It is, and it's a big. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Well, I was just going to say it's a pretty big deal. An education market is one that we're pretty familiar with here, and so we're very interested in watching how this plays out. And I would imagine that you have designs on expanding that into other markets through Apple channels. Because, I mean, like you said, it's a much, much, much bigger market.
So, we have big plans. Right now, our focus is in that market where we've landed. Our products are running in these, districts. We now want to prove to ourselves that we understand the motion to move them into our platform. The reason this is a big deal to me is because it's a machine, like it's an engine, right? And what we've learned, and now we understand how to work with engineering teams within Apple. We understand how to work with go-to-market teams within Apple. We don't have to go relearn how to do all of those things. And so scaling that out will be significantly faster than what we went through for the first draft, because that was everything we were doing for the first time.
Yeah. One thought as you were talking there, Ryan, this space is moving so fast, and the industry is always facing new opportunities, new changes. There's so much on the horizon with AI and things, things that we couldn't ever imagine, a couple of years ago. And one thing that struck me is that there's a story in tech that sometimes, if you don't like where you are, you just wait a couple of years and then everything will be different. What is old is new again, and so forth, right? And one of the trends that I'm seeing, obviously, I think FileMaker and Claris is uniquely positioned to take advantage of this. But I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. And that is, with the emergence of AI and data being the center of people's attention again, where everything about a business and how you augment it and how you accelerate it is predicated on you having control of that, and lo and behold, there's really no other platform on this planet where you can choose to how you exercise that control. You can deploy it on-prem in the cloud, or host it, or whatever. And I'm wondering how you are thinking about this change. Like, I mean, does that influence the way you think about where investments go, and is it aligned with the platform strategy that you've been executing on, or how do you think about it?
I mean, I'll start by saying that, we built a plan in fiscal year 25 based on a continuation of success where we're having success. What's important for me in this year is that we're executing well on stage 2 of our collaboration with Apple, that we've got to continue to succeed and win there, and that we're starting to bring new features to market that are creating value for our customers and ultimately for our partners and for Claris. That includes AI features, that includes, what we call Studio and ways that Connect can fit into all that and other things. As far as, so that's the plan that we set, that I absolutely was heavily involved in setting, and the strategy that I believe in for FY25. I have energy for a couple of things that might be a little bit more intense than maybe we had coming into this most recent change. And I mean a couple of things. And one of them is, the opportunity for us in AI. And I want to make sure that our investments are aligned with our ability to execute against the opportunity. This is not one of those areas where I think we need to be particularly slow. We have a history, like our purpose is bringing powerful technologies to everyone. And of course, AI is powerful technologies. And so figuring out the ways that we're going to make that technology available to our base is clearly our direction. But I also recognize that the speed is increasing, or like the rate at which things are changing. Yeah. What used to take 10 years, it's taking a year, now it's taking a month and taking a week and a day. And like tomorrow, things could be really different. What I have always appreciated about, Brad's leadership style was he was very steady. And so he did not tend to overreact. And I remember when the Chat GPT hit, and all of a sudden everybody's minds were blown about what's possible. And everybody, the people were talking about robots are going to take over the world. This is the end of days and all that stuff. That was one extreme. She's always had a pretty measured approach, and led us in a real steady way. And I don't want to be dramatically different than that, but I, from the jump, recognized and feel very strongly about our opportunity as being uniquely different. We have, like I said, 60,000 customers that are actively paying for subscriptions of our products. A significantly bigger universe of those people that are not currently active. One of the most exciting and attractive ways to bring some of those expired people back into our programs currently is to find ways to make the data that they're sitting on more valuable. And AI plays a part there. So that's as far, I think, as I want to go in that area, because we've been really clear about our roadmap publicly and kind of what investments we are making. We're being pretty transparent about, but it is safe to say this is an area I have a lot of energy for, but it's just because I'm a sense of urgency kind of person, right? And I want to get to market, and this is just not one of those areas I want to be late in.
So on the one side, we've got the soldier welcoming his pet when he gets home. And then on the other side, we've got the little kid who's getting their dog for the first time, right? That's the Apple side. It's this is the first time you didn't know there were puppies in the world, or you've always seen them on TV and you finally get one. Yeah. And that's what you're doing with Apple, right? You're look at the puppy. They're really cute. And it'll grow and be, hopefully you'll train it to do good things.
I'd like to be a pit bull. Is there a pit bull version of this?
It could be anything.
Bringing back the dog campaigns now. Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, touche.
As the owner of two bully breed dogs, I fully endorse.
Yeah, there you go.
That. I just to continue on with Ernest a little bit. I mean, one of the things that, despite or in addition to the specifics of how AI is changing people's, thoughts around. Let me start again. There is a bunch of specific implementation details around AI that have to get figured out, and they're getting worked out, and different people are trying different things. And I think we're just at the very early stages of understanding how to incorporate AI tools into the process of building apps or the process of leveraging the data that these apps have collected over time.
Yeah.
But there does seem to be a trend, which I find very interesting, which I think plays into Claris's strengths, that people are questioning just in what this is forcing people to do is to take a look at the strategies they've had for 10 years or 15 years, when a lot of the answers, when a lot of those strategies basically were find a SaaS product that will meet most of what we need to do and subscribe to that. That was the strategy pretty much since 2010, let's say, roughly in that area. And what I think is real and what's happening is people are going, I don't know. Like there's enough reasons to question that based on what AI is bringing to the table. One, it's appearing to make the cost of software development go down. It's appearing to make the ownership and control of the data that you have much more important. And all of those things lead to at least some people saying, maybe we should ditch this SaaS stuff and pick, and actually develop custom software. Now, I don't think that's going to go all the way back and everybody's going to build custom again. I don't think that necessarily makes sense. But for 15 years, especially with zero interest rate phenomenon and SaaS products basically just buying customers with cheap money, that the economics were such that SaaS was just a very compelling argument.
Yeah.
And I think there's a crack in that wall that's happened with it's being forced open by AI, and people are going, I don't know. I think there are areas where we should own the stuff. We should own the key innovations and the key things that we want to do with our business and our data. And part of that is just made obvious by AI, but it's kind of this, what Ernest was alluding to earlier, where what is old is new again. And I think that is happening. Like, I don't think it's one of these things where the pendulum switches all the way back, but I think there's an opportunity here. More people are interested in building custom software today than they were 6 months ago or a year ago. And I expect that trend to continue. And that plays right into the strengths that Claris has.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that are happening simultaneously, and some things are, contradictory, but can also both be true at the same time. Everything you just said, I'm with you. I mean, at the end of the day, as a business, if you have the choice between having processes and systems that are custom built for the way you run versus having to adhere to, technology and the way that the technology works, you're clearly going to go with, I want my business to run the way it runs. The limiting factor for that over time has been the effort that goes into building custom, and compiling that is the skills gap, right? I mean, there's only so many people that know how to do that work. So logically, as it becomes easier and easier for people to actually get to custom business solutions, they're going to, and it's affordable, right? They're going to lean in that direction. That just seems logical. At the same time, you talk about the skill gaps in custom development, and then now let's look at AI engineering, right? Like there's some skills that are just they're evolving, they're new, they're becoming a thing right now, and it's not like there's this stable of people with those skill sets that are laying around. We have this advantage that yes, we are custom, right? And that's always been our thing. We're sitting on a lot of data over a lot of years. We have a loyal base of customers, and we have an ecosystem of 1,500 companies that have developers that build on our platform. And so mobilizing that community allows us to get to market faster. I think it's a combination of us being able to bring to bear capabilities within our platform that makes it achievable for developers to quickly start building these types of features, but also enabling our community to get kind of onboarded. Because while I believe in the opportunity and it is massive, what I'm finding to be the case today anyways, is that people are struggling to get started. If you don't, do you have a background in vector databases and LLMs? And I mean, this is stuff that's it's just so new, that these are things that we have the opportunity to capitalize on as a company pretty quickly. I like the way you're thinking though, Todd. I think the way you think on this subject.
I mean, it's something that is just so core to the community, right? Like, I mean, I think most of us who do this work and have done it for, more years than I care to mention, what set us on fire is that we built something and it made some part of what we were doing easier or fun or
Yeah.
or powerful. And that was just such an intoxicating moment to realize that I could create some software that would run my business. This is something I can do.
Yeah.
And that is something, I mean, even through all the changes in the intervening years from the 90s when I first figured this out to today, that is still the thing that I've always wanted to do for businesses, which is to give them the pride and ownership and the feel and the joy that this is something that they have, that it's theirs, and it makes their customers' lives better. It makes their employees' lives better. It makes everybody's, efforts in that company better. And a few years ago, I don't know when it was, it's probably before it was Claris Engage, when we did a booth years ago, my slogan at the booth was custom software is a right. Custom software is a right. You have the right to own your own software. Yeah. And I still feel very strongly about that. And, that's why I do what I've been doing all these years. And that's a big part of what drives our company. And that's why Claris has always been such a critical part of what we do, because it makes that possible at a level that was really just unattainable with any other platform,
Yeah. And it's, what you just described, that emotion, it's one of the things that I've been working to try and figure out the formula of and how to bottle. I was describing it earlier, the energy that I get, the most energy I get is when I see these organizations that are breaking away from their pack because of this mindset of innovation that they have embraced early on in that journey. What you described, that feeling, I in my head trademark it as the aha moment. And we can bottle that for organizations. And it's not necessarily the aha moment that I can now build everything I want. It's the aha moment that this is actually possible. Like, I actually can use custom software to solve not only this need, I can be successful here, but I actually, if I can do this here, I can do this anywhere. And that exhilaration that kind of comes along with that, now I have the confidence to bring in the right people and the right help to start embarking on that journey. But that feeling that you're describing, it first of all, it's so consistent with the best examples we hear from either our pro developer partner community or our customer community. These are not pro developers that are saying these things. It's internal business champions that are like, man, the light went on and I'm like, wow, we can turn this whole thing, bottling that feeling. It's just fun to hear you describe it from your own vantage point, from your own point of view, because I relate to that.
It's been driving me for over a quarter century.
Yeah.
Really.
I think I'll concede here is that there is a very, very long tail of needs in every business that are just never going to be met by a SaaS solution. I mean, you can shop around and, you see this happen. People switch from one CRM to the next, right? Because it doesn't quite fit what they want to do, and they go through the whole migration pain and then so forth. And maybe there's and I think what I'm trying to say is that, and this ties back to some of our thoughts around how we can collaborate more and to kind of activate this market. I don't know if people are conscious that opportunity really exists, or if that problem exists. Like, I think there's so much marketing hype around whatever the Salesforce Studio, the Netflix, the NetSuite, or what is out there, that people think that this is the table stakes for running a business. And when you look at sort of the pie, that's like 30% of the business problem. It's the other 70% that never gets addressed, right? Now, how do we create a mindset, or at least to help people recognize that yeah, this is the market that is important. This is how you differentiate your business. This is how you really create value for the customers that align with your values as a business and so forth. And I'll just end on this thought. I think the two pieces here where it's worth registering. We're partners with Claris a long time, and we love engaging with our customers. But I would wager that a lot of us here as partners have a lot of capability to add value to the platform itself, assuming that it's I wouldn't say more open, but it gives us the hooks and the capabilities to help you accelerate it beyond what Claris can do by itself, because you also cannot solve all the edge cases and the long tail of needs, whether it's the component level or the integration level or the database layer or whatever else it is, right? So I think these two forces are actually, we're sitting at an interesting inflection point, and I'm actually hopeful that Claris is in this really unique place to kind of take advantage of it.
Yeah, I signaled that there's one area that I have a lot of energy that that I'm in the process of just reevaluating. And another area is kind of what you were hitting on, activating and leveraging. I hope our community feels the shift over the last couple of years, especially, our pro developer partner community, in bringing our partners to the center of our strategy through all of our web properties, through our motions in the field, through the customer stories that we're telling. I hope that our community feels that. I see a really big opportunity in leveraging the other scaled channel in a way that we have not as well as we can, which is our community. And it starts with our partner community. We've got 140 platinums. We have 1,500 Claris partners. We have a marketplace of add-ons and solutions that can serve as a huge kind of megaphone into the market. And we have I've made hiring decisions on bringing some people in to help us to build out that strategy this year. I understand that part of our business is stale. That was a business decision over the last couple of years because we have been focused in other areas. It's time for us to start prioritizing our ecosystem and our ecosystem's part in our growth strategy. And whether it's how we promote our hosting partners, how we promote our plugin partners, how we, even rank and sort, those that are in our community, and how we, position them. All of those things are in the process of being strategically planned. And the roadmap that I'm developing is for the next 3 years. But it starts with making sure that we have the dedicated mindset and resources to do that, which we have. We are both hiring for and moving people in that direction, because this is an area that we just have kind of grown stagnant.
That's awesome to hear that there's a short-term plan, a long-term plan, that things aren't just like, what are we doing now? Kind of reactive kind of state. You're thinking about this community and this ecosystem in the long run, which is what we want to hear, because we want to be in it for the long run. So thank you for saying that out loud. And, thank you for saying what you're going to bring to the table for us, and how you're going to bring us a little bit closer, hopefully, to help in whatever ways we can, right? Because this is definitely a trusted relationship we've built here, with us, with other partners. And so, I think we're excited for the journey, for whatever this might look like. And it'll change, right? Like we said earlier, things are changing, and things change quickly sometimes, but we'll stay on track together, hopefully.
Yeah. I'm excited. Awesome. I really am.
Yeah, us too. All right. Well, thank you for making time for this. I know you've got a lot of people to talk to, and a lot of changes happened. But we really appreciate the time and for giving the community an opportunity to hear what's on your mind and what this might look like for the future.
Yeah. And just in closing on that point, I mean, I have a deep appreciation for our community, in particular our partners. I recognize that we effectively outsource our customer success. We outsource the delivery of our products. Our partners are by default then an extension of our business, And I recognize that our partners have built business models over years and years and years that depend on our sustained success in the market. And so part of my obligation is to be engaged and be available, especially in this new role. And so being here is an honor. It's a privilege. I mean that. And I want to, to the extent that I have the capacity to do it, I will always make the time to sit down and have these types of conversations, just in mutual respect for both of our growth goals going forward.
That's awesome. We're going to hold you to it. So we're going to bring you back, whether you like it or not.
I look forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
All right.
Just as a reminder, this is available on YouTube and as a podcast, and make sure you check out the show notes as there are a lot of links to share there. If you can take a minute to pause and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it, but better yet, if you can share it with a friend, that would be pretty awesome. No matter what your role is in this community, you're proof of how amazing this Claris community really is. My job is to help spread your knowledge and your stories on the podcast. Find me on Twitter at MZ123 or at Proofgeist, and let's share your story.